everybody. You are in for a treat. On the show today, we have my friend Jemima-Faye Goodall. She's actually from South Africa, and I met her in a Facebook group that we are in together. And Jemima is so fun. She's got a whole bunch of different kinds of businesses, and she's been coached before. I've seen her coached before, and so she understands coaching, and she's always wanting to work on herself and dive in deeper. So when she saw that I was bringing people on the podcast for free coaching, she immediately signed up. And so today we're going to dive in deep. You guys, this call is amazing. It is not what you think it's going to be. It's not a whole bunch of strategy. This girl came on knowing that she is sabotaging her business. She is sabotaging going to new levels because of stories she took on as a kid and how she's trying to prove her worth and that she can earn money rather than create money. So we dive deep, and it's really mind-blowing, some of her big aha moments. So I would encourage you to listen closely and see what stories you identify with and how you're potentially creating those stories in your life today. Because keep in mind, you guys, every story we take on, we continue to create until we identify the story and choose to reframe it. Even if it's a story we don't like, even if it's a story we don't want anymore, we will take it on and continue to create evidence for that story until we become aware of it and we reframe. And that's a big part of the work that I do with my clients. So that's what we do today with Jemima's Call. I hope you love it, and I will see you on the flip side. All right, we've got Jemima-Faye on the podcast. I always call you Jemima-Faye because I think Kayla does in this society. Doesn't she always say that?
Kayla does. Funnily enough, Alison Bird also, she calls me Jemima-Faye. She calls me by my full name, which I actually love.
Alison
I love
Bird, her. She's amazing.
She's the best. She's the best.
Oh my gosh.
She also calls me Jemima-Faye.
If you guys don't know what we're talking about the Millionaire Society. Caleb Kraft runs it, and that's how Jemima and I met. You were one of the brave souls to get on and get coaching. One of the first ones, I feel like.
Yeah. So I think you and I were both founding members.
Yeah.
And I was one of the first ones, and I was sitting on the floor in my bedroom.
And you'll notice she has an amazing accent. I love it. Because you're from South Africa.
So such an awful accent. Such an awful accent. Thank you.
Fun story. I used to work at a bank here in Colorado, and one of my coworkers was from South Africa. So I know a South African accent. It's totally different than anything else. It's not. It's like Australian, like it's its own thing, and I love it. I think it's so cool. I know who you are, obviously, but
yes.
Nobody else listening does. So tell everybody a little bit about you and your business and what brings you on the call.
Okay, so yeah, as Joy said, I am in Cape Town in South Africa. I've been an entrepreneur most of my working life. I started my first business when I was 26. And I no longer have that business, but I have two others at the moment. So 4 years ago, I started my online underwear company, which has grown phenomenally. And that's been a really amazing experience for me. We've launched globally. So it was the first business that I ever took global. That's the one business that I own. And then I started a digital marketing agency about 3 years ago, which also was very successful. We also launched it globally, and then with lockdown and the effects of COVID, we actually basically lost the business, I guess. And that was in March of this year.
Which one did you lose?
My marketing agency.
Okay.
You know, with the effects of lockdown in South Africa, I mean, all around the world, but for us in South Africa, you know, a lot of our clients were tourism companies. And of course, the tourism industry here has died completely. So we've lost pretty much all of our clients. We had lost all of our clients very early on. So I was forced to pivot very quickly. And we did a really great pivot in the business. I pivoted into an e-learning platform. So we now have this amazing, amazing online learning facility. People can go on, they can go through all sorts of levels of digital marketing courses with me and my team. So we're offering like quick 8-day crash courses on email marketing to, you know, 6-week long deep dives into digital that we offer to other corporates. So We've done a massive pivot. It's been a lot of learning the last 6 months for us. It's been very different, very new, but we're loving it. And it's really taking off, which is very cool. Very, very cool.
You still have the underwear line too, right?
I still have my underwear business, but we have also, that's also been impacted obviously by COVID. Just before lockdown, I don't know if you'll remember, but in February, I was in Los Angeles launching Something Sassy in California. But of course, we haven't been able to do anything with that because we then weren't able to get stock there. And so there've been a lot of, Something Sassy has been quite heavily impacted by COVID. So I've actually just put it on ice for a little while. We also haven't been able to import our raw materials from China. So we couldn't go into production. It's been a bit of a nightmare. So, but it's actually worked out well because it's meant to have been able to put that business on, as I said, on ice for a little while I focused on the pivot in my agency. So yeah, it's all worked out well.
Really quickly, number one, I love that you're a businesswoman that has started like multiple businesses. You just like, oh, now I'll start this. Oh, now I'll start this. Because one isn't enough, right? Clearly,
one is never enough.
It's never enough. And that this year, both your businesses were pretty much taken out by COVID and you kept your team and you totally pivoted and started something new.
Yeah.
Like amazing. That's amazing. So major props to you. I love that.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you. It's been exciting. It's been interesting. It's been difficult. It's been really, really difficult. But for the most part, I've loved it. Actually, I've loved the change. I love having to find solutions. I'm very solutions driven. So I've actually really enjoyed it.
So Jemima and I have talked before, and because she's had coaching with Kayla, I know somewhat her story and her struggles, and she's very open to like working on herself. And so just prefacing like this next part, because we talked a little bit before the call about what we're going to dive into. So this call is going to be awesome because we're going to go into the deep stuff. So tell everyone your feelings, like you're stuck or what you're struggling with.
So, I mean, I wouldn't say struggling. I probably wouldn't say struggling. I think you know what it's like. I do a lot of work on myself. I do work with various coaches and mentors, people like Kayla, people like yourself. So I am constantly doing the work. So I wouldn't say stuck or struggling because I'm never stuck for very long, right? we don't get the chance to be. So, but I sit down quietly every morning and I think about what's blocking me and what's getting in my way. And I have spent a lot of time in therapy. And what I actually want to say about therapy while you and I are chatting about this is the realization I had about therapy, and this is just from my personal experience. So I don't want anybody to like hold me to this, please. But from my personal experience, therapy has always very much been about unpacking the past.
Yeah.
Which is great. And there's a place for that. And I think it's very important. And I think if you've had a traumatic childhood, like I've had, like so many of us have had, or you've had a difficult time, therapy is really important. But I think we get to a point, or for me, certainly I got to a point where exploring the past was actually no longer serving me. Like I had done so much exploring of the past that like I know it in excruciating detail. I know my story. Like, trust me, I can tell you exactly what happened every year from the day that I was born. Like I know my story. And so moving into like more of a coaching environment and like that mentorship, for me, it meant more exploring the future and understanding how I'm changing as I'm leveling up. To quote the name of your podcast. Such a good name. So yeah, like exploring the new versions of me that are starting to appear, and then understanding which versions of my younger self are blocking that level up. So I do that work, as I say, like regularly on a daily basis. I sit down and I think about it. And to your point, what I realized what I've been thinking about, I don't know how well I'm going to articulate this because it's very new in my mind, but the last few months, there's been something coming up for me around being able to manifest or attract financial abundance only if it's given to me, not if I earn it. So this is something, so I've had businesses that are investor funded. I've had businesses that are self-funded. I am fortunate enough to come from a family with money. So I've had very generous gifts bestowed upon me throughout my life. And I have this thing I've realized around the fact that I can only attract money and wealth and financial abundance if it's given to me. I can't actually earn it for myself. So this is something that I started exploring a few months ago and I started working on. And then this morning, while I was doing my meditation, I realized it actually goes a little bit further than that. And again, this is where I'm not going to articulate this very well, but it's almost like I don't feel like I should have to work. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a very hard worker.
Clearly, you have several businesses.
I've worked my butt off and I've built up 6-7 figure businesses through hard work. So I'm still trying to figure out how it all fits together in my mind. I'm not quite sure, but there's something that goes on for me around the fact that I'm owed something. And I don't really know what that is about yet. And that's what I'm exploring.
You feel that you're owed.
Yes. I feel that I owed, and I feel like that's kind of collapsing with the fact that I also feel like I'm not worthy of earning it. And yet I'm owed it. So it needs to be given to me. Does this make sense? I don't know.
In some ways, yeah. So I have a couple questions before we keep going.
Yeah. Go.
Get up to, you said you can't earn it, it has to be given to you. Wasn't that the first realization you had?
Yes. Like I'm not good enough to earn it. Like I'll only get all of this great stuff and this financial abundance and whatever if I'm given it. Actually, I'm not good enough to earn it.
What part of you thinks that being given it isn't earning
it? I love getting on calls with you.
Okay, you asked for it. Like, what part of you thinks that that's not manifesting the money?
There you go. So you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So there's like, okay, yeah. So there's a bunch of stuff for me around that.
Well, where does the sense of being owed come from?
I think maybe it's not necessarily being owed. It's just, as I said to you a little bit earlier, I think I have this, God, maybe this is all just like limiting belief stuff. Oh my gosh, you've just unraveled my entire theory, Joy. So
my next question for you is, why shouldn't you just receive it? Why do you have to earn it?
Well, yeah.
You're fighting so hard.
I'm fighting so hard
that you can earn money when money's being given to you, and you're like, no, I should be able to earn it. Like, I need to be worthy to earn money. I shouldn't. Like, I have a problem with receiving. Like, I think I should just be given money, and I'm like, that's not a problem. That's called doing it the right way.
I do. I have such a thing around that.
It's like,
has anyone ever told you that you're really good at your job?
Well, just now. No. So, have you studied feminine energy at all?
No.
Okay, I would if I were you. If
Okay.
I were your coach, I would recommend that, because feminine energy is all about your intuition and receiving. And it sounds to me like your intuition is wanting to direct you to receive. And you're fighting so hard to prove that you're worth earning.
I'm fighting so hard.
Where does that come from? Who is on your bus that wants to prove she's worth it?
I have a lot of stuff around not feeling worthy of abundance and wealth and the finer things. I grew up with a stepfather who was very abusive. You know, he would say things to me like, who the hell do you think you are? And why do you think you're so much better than us? And why do you, at the age of 14, feel like you need to make extra money so that you can buy a nicer shampoo than the shampoo that we provide? So I'm still doing a lot of work on that, because that 14-year-old girl who's always told that her standards are too high and she needs to come back down to earth and remember her place.
What's the belief she took on about herself?
Oh, well, that she wasn't good enough. And who do you think you are? You have no right to have all these grand desires.
And so that's being created in your life today. How are you continuing to create evidence for that story in your life today?
Well, I think you've already pointed that out in the fact that I'm fighting very hard. I think every time that I do see a new level of success, I either sabotage, and Kayla's had some strong words with me about this before, actually, but I have this like inherent, like, I'm going to lose it all. And then I do. So like my career has been like this, because whenever it gets really good, I'm like, oh, actually, this is too good and it's all going to be taken away from me any minute now. So that I still struggle with a lot. And yeah, as we said already, like just not feeling like I am worthy of earning or worthy of and I'm not deserving of it.
Why does money have to be earned?
Because you have to do something in exchange for it. And this again potentially comes back to the way I grew up. And my stepdad was also very weird in the way that we had to do things. It was like, I don't want to sound like I'm being extreme about it, but like other families would comment on how my stepsister and I were treated like little slaves almost. Like we had to wake him every morning with like freshly brewed coffee. And that was in exchange for him to take us to school. So everything is an exchange.
And for you as a kid, it sounds like if I don't earn my basic rights as a child, I'm not taken care
of. 100%.
That's really big. That's really heavy.
Yeah, that is.
That's a really heavy belief.
That is a very heavy belief.
So has Kayla walked you through the process of asking yourself why you manifested these stories?
No.
Oh, well then let's do that. You know as well as I do. As long as we keep these stories, we will keep creating them in our lives. Mm-hmm. We'll keep creating evidence for them. And you're still creating evidence to prove that you have to earn everything.
All the time.
Mm-hmm. When you're like, money's being given to me, but I should have to earn it. And I'm like, what?
Oh, no.
In order to go from being the victim with this story in your life to becoming the victor and reframing the story and coming from a more empowering stance, you need to be able to give that girl a new perspective. The 14-year-old, she sounds younger than 14, where she had to wake her stepdad up with coffee.
Oh yeah, no, that was from like the age of 8.
Right. So one way of doing this that's really powerful is to say, let's pretend before you came to Earth, you saw the life you were going to live, and you saw all the experiences that you would have. And you said, yep, I'm taking that life because it's going to teach me exactly the lessons I need to have the life and the impact that I'm here to have and to learn the lessons I'm supposed to learn. So if that's true, and you don't have to believe it to use this question. I think it's a great question either way. You can pretend. If that were to be true, why did you pick to have this experience with a stepdad who was constantly telling you you have to earn your basic rights? You have to earn anything in your life.
So 2 things come to mind to answer that question. The first, maybe 3. The first is so that I can share my story and experience with other people in the future. so that I have a story and I can identify and I can relate and I can somehow support other people.
So you'll be more empathetic, probably more compassionate.
Yes. Yes. More understanding.
It sounds like to me almost like it would start your impact. Like you wouldn't be able to have the impact in the world you're supposed to have if you hadn't gone through that.
Yeah.
Amazing. What else?
So the other thing that comes up for me, and I don't know if this is like, if this is correctly answering the question, but the other thing that comes up for me is one day when I'm a parent, because I'm not yet, but I will be, I think I'm going to be amazing because of the parents that I had. And I had 3 really messed up parents. And I think that whichever children are given to me, they're going to be given to me and they're going to have amazing, amazing lives. And they're going to be amazing people because of what I experienced.
So you get to break generational patterns.
Totally. That's a huge one for me, because if I look back at the history of my mother, the history of my stepfather, the history of my father, like no one was breaking any patterns for a really long time. So
right.
If I get to, and I am actually the only child of all of my parents, weirdly enough, so I get to be the one to break the pattern.
Wow. You chose to come here and go through this so that you could break generational patterns, heal things in your family line, and have your impact on the world. Because would you be doing any of these things if you hadn't have gone through that experience and you had perfect parents that loved you perfectly?
No way. No way. And I feel that way about everything I went through, because there was a lot, and that, yeah, I would never be where I am today if it wasn't for that.
So knowing that, can we go back to the 8-year-old Jemima? You can have a conversation with her from your highest self and tell her, like, you're about to go through this, girl. It's got nothing to do with money. It's got nothing to do with having to earn anything. This is the start of your purpose.
Yeah.
And then after,
it feels exciting.
Doesn't it? Yes, that's how we go from victim to victor. That's how we use our stories instead of letting them own us. But that's also how you can change that belief, because now when you feel her coming up and wanting to be like, no, we have to earn, you can be like, that didn't even have anything to do with money. Like, that belief is irrelevant.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm feeling like a little shell-shocked. I thought I had this like really great awakening this morning, and you've just completely like blown my theory out of the water and been like, hang on a second, Jemima. Yeah.
Well, and I was going to dig into like the feeling of being owed, because there is a certain sense of when you know you're putting value out into the world, you are owed energetically.
Yeah.
You do put a lot of value out there. You help a lot of people. So energetically, you should feel that it's coming back to you. Not from a place of like, you owe me, but from a place of like, hey, I've put out so much, it's coming back, like energetically.
Yeah. And why am I so uncomfortable with that? I am so uncomfortable with that.
Because you fight receiving.
100%. It's the same reason I don't like asking for help.
What does it mean about you if you ask for help?
That I'm weak.
And what does that mean?
It means that I'm unlovable, because I won't be celebrated unless I'm strong.
And that's the passenger on your bus?
Yeah.
But now when you look at your life purpose and the impact she came here to have, is that actually true?
No.
So here's the problem. We tend to attach labels to everything. So when you say, I'll be weak, in my mind, I go, is that bad? So it's always catching ourselves. And that's what helps so much with backing up our thoughts and constantly questioning. So it's like, okay, if I have to ask for help, what does that mean? Oh, I'll be weak. Okay, what does that mean? Right? Like, keep asking yourself, what am I making this mean? so that you can peel back the onion to figure out what's really there, because in reality, things are good and bad if we say they are.
Yeah.
And society has conditioned us to think that a lot of things are good and bad. That it's like, says who? And who was the first person that ever said that? Like, and are they never weak?
Yeah.
And is asking for help actually a sign of weakness?
Yeah, that's really good.
Like, what part of you thinks that asking for help is a sign of weakness?
I'm not sure what exactly that's about. I've always had to be very self-sufficient. I never had anyone to ask for help when I was a child, when I should have been able to. There was no one for me to get help from. I had to be the resource, not just for myself, but for the people around me.
Correct. So I would almost say your belief isn't that it's weak to ask for help. It's that I'm alone. It's up to me. I don't have anybody to ask for help.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Right? Like, and I can relate to that, because that's one of my stories is I'm alone. It's up to me. Nobody's coming to help me. And as long as we hold on to that belief, we keep creating that story in our life, in our business. How are you creating that story? You're creating it by not asking for help.
Totally. And it manifests now that you've pointed it out. It manifests at the moment within my businesses and within my career, the way that it's been the last 2 or 3 years, in the fact that I am never able to keep a business partner.
Yeah.
And I'm never able to, not never able to, but I struggle to keep my senior team.
Because you
On
got
repeat.
evidence. You have to have evidence to prove your story is true. So you will do whatever you got to do to keep proving it true.
Right. So how do we fix that is my question.
The reframing and going back to, when did I take this on? Right? And how am I going to reframe this with her and give her a new perspective? 2, have you read the book, The Big Leap?
Yes, it's right here next to me. I love that book.
I was like, sounds like you need to read it again.
Thank you. Okay, I'll go back and read it again.
It's starting to be aware of catching yourself.
Yeah.
By asking yourself more. I have to ask myself this every day, multiple times a day. How are you creating this story? How are you actively creating evidence for this story with this decision? It's stopping to question the decisions we're making, the reactions. It's just slowing down and being more aware and asking, am I creating a familiar story right now?
So good.
So what Kayla always does with suggesting that act the opposite of how you feel, act the opposite of how you would normally, that's where that comes in handy.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. Mind blown.
You're so fun. You're so fun to coach.
Really? Am I?
Yeah, because you're so in it. Like, you get it. Like, you know your stuff. You're easy to see your stories. Like, you get it. And so it's fun.
I think I get it. And then you come along and then I'm like, well, actually, I had no idea what the fuck was going on.
All that from an outsider's perspective. That happens to all of us. My coach does it to me all the time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's really cool, actually.
So
I've got some work to do. But that's cool. As I say, like, it just feels exciting. I love a breakthrough moment like that.
So for you, let's turn this into some tangibles.
Yes, please.
Where do you need to ask for help to stop creating this story?
At home, definitely.
Okay.
In my agency, for sure. There are people on my team who could probably take quite a lot off my plate, but I don't ask. So yeah, I would say those are probably the 2 places that I would start.
What is something you can do outside of your business that will make you feel valuable and worthy?
You mean there's stuff outside of my business?
Because you're looking so desperately to feel valuable and worthy by proving you can earn money in your business.
Yes.
And oftentimes encourage people, the feeling they're looking for in their business, if they can't have it right now, how can you create it somewhere else? And the feeling, really what you're looking for is feeling valuable and worthy. So is there a charitable cause you could get involved in?
I
That
was about to say that's so funny because I've been thinking about how I could give of my time. But then it comes back to like, no, that time needs to be spent on your business.
right, because you're wanting to create the story that it's up to you. You're all alone. No one's coming to
Yes.
help, and you have to earn your money.
Yes.
So we would kill two birds with one stone
Yes.
by forcing you to go spend time elsewhere.
Yes. Okay.
So I think you should consider getting involved in something where you could donate,
Yes.
you could feel valuable, you could feel like you're making an impact. You could fill up that cup.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then that would force you to ask your team for help too.
Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh, I love that. That's so good. Oh my God, I'm excited. I'm going to go do some research right now.
I mean, if you really wanted to, we would dig into like, where have you struggled? What are the patterns with your team in losing them in the past? Could be homework for you. Look for the patterns and take ownership. Like, make it, what did I do wrong to lose my team? Right? Like, and how can I create a different environment? How can I how can I be a different boss? Like, who do I need to be to have this team and to not have this story with my team anymore?
Yeah, because it's very repetitive.
Mm-hmm. So the common denominator here is yes.
It's very repetitive.
So look for the patterns and ask yourself who you need to be, what kind of boss you need to be to have the dream team.
I love that. Okay.
You got some homework, girl. This is going to be awesome.
I got some homework. I'm so excited. I want to have a follow-up.
I was going to say, you better check in with me. Tag me on Instagram or something. Tell me what's happening.
Definitely. Oh my gosh. Definitely. I may need this recording as well so that I can go back and listen to it again.
Well, it'll be on the podcast, so you know.
Oh yeah, that's true. I'll just go and listen to it anytime.
Good. Thank you for coming on and being so open and so vulnerable.
Oh my gosh, Joy, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm the one who should be thanking you. Thank you. That's amazing.
You tell everybody where they can find you and like send you a
Yes, guys. So Instagram, I spend some time on Instagram, not like Joy does, but I do spend some time on Instagram. And I'm at Jemima-Faye Goodall, all one word. And yeah, that's probably just the easiest place to find me. Otherwise, my agency on the website, on our agency's website, there's a bunch of different ways to work with us, to work with me, and that's at cococreative.co.za.
Yay. And I'll link up your Instagram name in the show notes so they can go.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Joy.
Thank you for coming on. I'm super excited.
Thanks for having me. I love that. And I'll definitely keep you posted. I'll definitely keep you updated. Yeah.
Follow up. And everybody, if you love this episode, don't forget to take a screenshot, share it out on your social media, tag Jemima and and tell us what your aha moment was. Because I know we can learn so much from watching other people be coached, because typically we all have the same fears. We all have the same struggles. So tell us what your aha moment was and what you're going to do differently to break those stories. Everybody have an awesome day.